What's up, family? Welcome to Positive Power Double XI, J. Royce Films. I'm Jerry Royce Live, and you're watching The Red Room with Shay Samuels, right here on Music Vision Television. That's right, MVTV-21.com. It's going to be awesome, y'all. So please share this file. It's going to be awesome. You know what's going to be? It's going to be lit. Start timer, ready on your mark.
Welcome to another episode of The Red Room. I am your host, Shay Samuels. As always, I'm excited to have you guys on today. We have a very special guest and a very special topic. We're going to bless you all. This show just might be for the women, but men, I want you guys to stay tuned because you might learn something from us today, something that might help us, encourage us, inspire us. So just stay with us for a while, okay? But I'm going to introduce my special guest, Miss Lisa Dove Washington. How are you, Miss Lisa?
I am great, and I am excited to be here with you this evening.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm excited about this topic. I am excited about just what is going to come out of us. I don't know what's going to come out of us, but you know, we're just gonna go at it. But we are talking today about celebrating sisters and how fitting is it that in this season we have a lot of women that we are calling female bosses. Everyone is stepping up, stepping out. Right before the taping, you were talking about some of the projects that you're working on, you know, being in Clubhouse and people knowing you, but you not knowing who people are. So that means you are really making a great stride in the world that you're in. And so it's amazing. What I find very saddening to me is that because we are out to do what God is calling us to do, because we have gifts that we want to share with the world, there are people out there who become intimidated by it. So what I'd like to use this opportunity for us to do is really celebrate one another and what we do and how we do it, but also kind of, you know, they say bad news travels faster than good news. So I want this to be a bit of good news where whoever's watching this today can take what we're talking about and share it with their friends. And I have a saying, one brings one. So as they begin to hear it, they'll begin to start talking to other people, and that energy will start exuding out into the world. So one brings one. So I remember a long time ago, I was in the grocery store line, and right behind me, there was a lady, right in front of me, there was a lady who ended up paying for my groceries. I only had like bread and a can of like baked beans or something like that in there, but they paid for my groceries. So when I got to the front, I looked back and I started looking at the person behind. I was calculating like $1, $2, $3. I want to pay it forward, but I don't want to pay too much.
That's right.
So, but I paid for it. And I wondered if that person did the same thing, and did it carry on? How far did it carry out? But that's what I want to do today. I really want to shine some light on the positives of celebrating one another, celebrating sisters who are in power, in authority, sisters who are out to really just use their God-given gifts and to be a blessing to the world, using their talents to bless other women. No shade, no competition, but it's very difficult. So I want to start there. Why do you think it's so difficult for us as sisters to do that?
Okay, so let me just share this with you because this is my thing. Sisterhood is so important to me, and I'm usually asking other people that same question, like, why we need to get it together, because together we are so powerful. And we miss those moments where we can come together and get past the mess and start making things happen. But this is the area when you mentioned to me about the importance of, you know, women in the season, I was like, okay, this is my topic right here. Not just because we need work at that, but it's like, it's so cool to talk about women supporting women. I love seeing our sisters support each other. I've been in conferences and things where we're talking about how it feels so good when a sister just walks up and says, "Oh, girl, I like your hair," or
Yes.
look at that, you're looking good today. And it takes nothing to do that. I actually had a show recently. On one of my shows, we talked about that because the subject was colorism, but we talked about we started a hashtag actually, we cute,
Okay.
because it wasn't about you cute, it's we cute. And I think
Yes.
sometimes when you push it out there, people put these judgments on it, and women tend to do that. I think that we judge ourselves off of other people,
Yes.
Unfortunately, because we haven't gained that confidence to know that even alone we're okay.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what someone else looks like. We are so unique. And I know people hear it and think it's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
We just got to start believing it. So it takes moments like this and what you're trying to do, we need reminders constantly.
Yeah.
To just say it's okay, and yes, you are cute. We
Yeah.
cute.
It's true. A couple of years ago, I purposed myself and I said to someone, if I actually carried a camera around with me while I did this, I think it would have turned into like America's Funniest Videos, and I would have probably won the $10,000. But I had purposed myself to actually speak to every woman that I saw and literally give them a compliment, whether it was their hair was nice, the perfume smelled good, even if they just got on the elevator with me and I just said, have a great day. And, some of it, I kind of got a little personal with it because I'm like, people just don't realize how easy it is to say hi. But I had to think about, you never know what that person went through when they got on the elevator before they came to the work place. You never know what's on their mind. So you don't want to take it too personal. But some of the funny parts where I would go in and I would hold the door open for one of my sisters and they would look at me like I was crazy, like, what,
what you want, right?
Right. Or if I would say, oh, your hair is really nice, they would kind of look, but I wish I had a camera with me because I know I would have won that $10,000. But it is so important. And there are people out there like you and I who understand the importance of it and just wanting to see our sisters succeed. We should, as women, all want to help one another because it's not just a black or white thing. It really more becomes cultural because we are taught to be competitive amongst one another.
Right.
And so because we are taught that way, because we are conditioned, it becomes a topic that needs to be more relevant to our culture because we need to break the stigma. Anytime I see a 5-year-old look another 5-year-old up and down as an adult would, that's something that's taught in the household.
Absolutely.
It's something that may not have been said, you look at her that way, but they've watched the way that you've looked at other people and they mimic it. And so I want to challenge you, if you're watching today, to understand the importance of making sure that your child even understands what camaraderie looks like when it comes down to their peers. Help one another out. Make sure that they realize how pretty they are. The world is already tearing them apart as a whole. Not, we don't need to do that within our own community. So my next question is, what is it going to take outside of what we're doing right here, right now on this broadcast? What does it take for the world? Anyone seeing this? What steps can we take today to start making this this recognizable, it's not even a secret thing, this recognizable thing? What can we do to start bridging the gap to that barrier?
I'm just thinking that we need to just continue to be consistent. I mean, I think it's going to be hard, but those who don't have a problem with, complimenting and celebrating, because I think other women are just not used to it.
Yeah.
It's not what they've ever experienced, even in their own families. They didn't get that kind of affirmation or, you're beautiful today from home. So when someone outside of home says it, you're thinking, okay, what's the ulterior motive? What you want from me? That's, immediately. So I think it takes, people who actually believe in celebrating to just go a little bit harder. Sometimes it's just that we have to fight till we break through that wall and let them know, even if they give us the crazy look, which I know exactly what you're talking about and I'll laugh about it, but I know where it's coming from. So I just do it again and I do it again. And maybe after about 3 or 4 times, even the same person, they'll stop after a minute because they're like, okay, she meant that. I I just think they don't believe you the first time. So you just
Yeah.
have to do it again and again.
Yeah. And the importance of all of this really is just that as a body, as a body, once we unify, there's so many things that can be done. We now have an African American vice president in place. And I saw how many people were representing in my hometown, Delaware. A lot of people were representing there at the riverfront. And I saw these worlds come together. And in my mind, I thought, for how long? In my mind, I thought, when does this start to kind of go outward again? For a moment, we can come together, but that really should have been the time that we took with one another to literally start binding together, coming together, unifying together, and understanding. Then I watched the inauguration and it gave me chills. I have to be honest with you. The inauguration gave me chills because it was a start of something new, but that was another opportunity for us to come together and look at what this unification looked like. There were so many pictures of Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris looking at one another from across the room. And momentarily you saw people say, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. But here's what I haven't seen. I haven't seen the consistency of that's what it looks like. What I did see is everyone started wearing the outfit that Michelle Obama had on. Everybody started wearing the coats because we want what it looks like. Here's our reality. There's something out there bigger for us if we can unite.
Absolutely. I felt the same way. I was in tears in front of the TV all by myself. But it felt so good. And just that moment, for me, it lasted a long time. It was just a few minutes. And I understand what you're saying, that we have that moment and then we go back to doing what we normally do. And what I think that those who got it and those who felt it have to keep reminding those who let it go, because we do have a tendency to just stay in a moment and then we move on to, as we used to say back, I might be aging myself, but when you're gritting on somebody or looking at them crazy, I know I'm aging myself. But
No,
I mean, that's what we do. That is so what we do.
I just look young.
Yeah. It was like I heard that from somebody. I think that's what they say. But yeah, I think that we just need to keep pushing forward, and because sisterhood is so important to me. And I ask that question often, like, what is it with us that we still don't want to, even when we think somebody is, oh, she's cute, we don't want to tell her because we're afraid that she's going to think, oh yeah, I know I am. We're just afraid of the response or anything.
Well, here's the thing. So let's go back to slavery. And I've talked about this over and over and over again. It is something that we've been conditioned to understand about one another. This is why they took women and put some in the homes and dressed them up so they can look down on the ones that were out in the barns, and they can look down on their children. They have taught, and I say they, the oppressor, and I'm not going into black or white, I'm just saying the oppressor has taught us. And I'm going back this far with it because we have to come to that reality. In order for us to be able to identify where we are now, we do have to go back into history to identify where it came from. And then we have, we talk about Rosa Parks, we talk about Harriet Tubman, we talk about all of our ancestors who've done what they needed to do to get us where we are today, only for us to be where we are today. The reality of it is again, one brings one. One brings one. Why is it important for me to make sure that I let you, my sister, know how beautiful you are? Because the world has told you you're not. And I'm saying this to the viewer, but the world has told you that you're not. And like you said, Lisa, you said that our families may not have told us that because they didn't believe it, but it has to start somewhere. This is where bridging the generational gaps comes in. You have to be able to identify one with the value and the beauty in you in order for you to be able to teach your child this. Hurt breeds hurt. So when that happens, when you don't overcome and you don't heal from the hurt, then all you're doing is breeding a younger generation to do the same thing. There are teachers who are out there who actually look down on the students that they're working with because they weren't raised in those homes. This is where we get the, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth.
Right.
But our reality is that we have to understand the importance. So I'm going to turn it over to us talking about the importance of it. So we now know what we're not doing. We know why we're not doing it. But the importance of it is what I want to spend the last couple of minutes on, because once we can hone in on that, I'm hoping that someone who sees this today, that they would literally start to take an account their own actions.
Absolutely.
Not what Lisa Dove Washington does, not what Shay Samuels does, not what Kamala Harris does, and not what Michelle Obama does, but what they can do to make sure that the communities around them are impactful. Before we answer that, let me share this. My grandmother and her neighbors, they used to share items together.
Okay.
If one didn't have sugar, my grandmother would go over to the house and say, I need some sugar. There was no competition there.
Right.
Nobody's talking about the fact that they needed sugar. Nobody called such and such to say, you know, Ruth came over here and asked for sugar. It's just what they did because the kids needed to be fed, right?
Right.
Somebody didn't have bread. Guess what? The person down the street had two loaves, two slices of bread to make a 4-half sandwich, right?
That's right. That's right.
So we have to, if we can, get back to that. So I'm gonna say mine first, and then you say yours.
Okay.
We have to understand our neighboring communities. We go in and out of our homes every day without knowing the need of our neighbors. Most of the time, we get into our cars, we're going to get a bite to eat because it starts in our house first. But do we even know who the neighbors are in our home, in our areas? We've gotten so busy with day to day that we don't take the time out to just say, how are you? So forget me doing it in my workplace and forget me doing it when I go into a building, but what have I done in my community to make that difference? If I personally say one brings one, what am I doing in the community? So I first challenge you, if you have an opportunity, I'm not saying knock on somebody's door because yes, they will think that you're crazy. But if you see your neighbor come outside and you know you've been there for 10 years and you've never said one thing to that neighbor, maybe today is the day that you do that. Maybe today is the day that you just say hi, fill out the waters. But once, like you said, Lisa, what will happen? You do it enough, they're going to start coming to you. And then you're going to see another neighbor, and then you both do that. And eventually you'll find that that person has something to offer you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find that whatever you've been praying about, that thing is on the other side of your neighbor. You don't even know it because you haven't asked. You're looking on Facebook, you doing all you got to do to promote when it's right across the street from you. So I challenge you to check your neighborhood, and it starts there for me. So what would you say, Lisa?
You know what? It's funny. You went back to back in slavery time. So I'm gonna share this real quick. That in one of my books, I actually talk about that. It's in my book, The Power Shut Up. And I mentioned a situation where, you know, it was, of course, we were dealing with the colorism issue. I was, you know, light skinned, someone else was a little darker. But this goes to the sisterhood, because at that moment, because I so believe in sisterhood, I think that the importance is because we need to let each other know that we are not alone in whatever is going on. And in that moment, when someone approached me and I think thought that because they liked or preferred not necessarily me, but my skin color as opposed to someone else's, I stood up and said, that is not a compliment for me. So I took on whatever they were throwing at her, the shade. I took it on with her because if I felt like that I have to stand up and let you know that what you're doing is not right. And it's not a compliment. And I think that's where we miss the mark, where we see, it's kind of like the bullying thing. When you see someone else that's being bullied, do you watch? Do you secretly say something to them, or do you stand up and say that enough is enough? We're not going to do that. And I think that's the importance of sisterhood, that we don't stand up for our sisters enough when they're hurt or they're down or they're going through something, and just let them know it's okay, instead of saying, oh, she got an attitude. Understand where it's coming from, because we've all had the attitude. So, you know, I think that letting your sister know that you are not alone, I've been where you are, or I understand your pain, or just that I'm here for you. So I just challenge people to let the ladies know I'm here for you. And it may be someone who never doesn't know you, don't know anything about you. But if you just say, hey, if you need something, I'm right here. And I think that's what people secretly want to hear, even though they'll never tell you that.
Yeah. And the Bible says to do what you say you're going to do. So don't say to someone that you're going to be there for them and then shut them out. So if you know that you cannot do it, don't put yourself in a position to where you're putting yourself in a bind. Your intention can be well, but make sure that you do what you say you're going to do. Your yes be your yes, and your no be your no.
Absolutely.
So then my challenge is going to be, it was on the tip of my tongue while you were talking, but you said something really good. You said something really good, and I love that, because a lot of people don't realize. Oh, that's what it was. So a lot of people don't realize the baggage that we all carry. If you look at yourself as all the hurt and all the healing that you need, the person sitting in front of you has experienced life as well. And so when you were talking about the attitude, realize that what we consider attitude is how that person may just express themselves.
Right.
But again, one brings one. When you change your circle, everything about you changes. So the way that you talk and the way you carry yourself, the way that you learn, everything about you begins to change, because now you have decided to be around people that can help you nurture that change. So it's very important to understand that every person in front of you, as females, we've all been through something. I host a conference every year, and I did a conference about the bridging the generational gaps. And when I did that conference, it's all about walking out your purpose. But when I did that particular year, all the women who attended, without my knowledge, were raped in their homes. Not only were they raped, but the silence was there because the parents were raped, and the daughter stopped caring for the mother because they felt the mother wasn't there. But look at how that generational gap happened, where it's not just about friendships, or it's not about slavery. This was a house divided because of something happening. And so now you don't have an opportunity to really come together and unite because of that hurt. What I will tell you is at that conference, that very conference, all of that broke. So now mothers and daughters are ministering with one another. They've reconciled their relationships. The testimonies that came out of that, I was not aware. I just did what I was supposed to do. So I want to challenge you guys to understand, ladies, we all have been through something. And just because you might see somebody who may not speak to you, it may not be personal. It may be they're just going through something, or maybe they've been taught to be silenced. But your hi, your hello, your I'm beautiful, like Lisa said, it may take a while for them to really get a hang of, I am beautiful. Somebody did speak to me. There's no agenda here. But keep in mind that if you're dealing with it, they may be also. So just take it easy on your sister, and know that they may not be intentionally shutting you out, gritting on you. They may not be doing that personally, but make sure that you yourself are being kind. The Bible reminds us of love and what it is. It's patient, it's kind, it's not boastful, it's not envious, it's not jealous. You have to be mindful of that. And so in walking in that, understand that your sister really may not be throwing shade at you, but there may be something there that you personally can help them with. So that's my second challenge.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you said. I mean, I just think it's a matter of us understanding and not assume. I will add to that, to not assume. I think a lot of times we look at the outward and we are good at pretending that we are okay. So the other half of that is letting people know that, yes, I might have got my hair done, I'm looking good, but that doesn't mean that there are not some things on my mind. That doesn't mean that my heart doesn't hurt, but people will read that into you. I will tell you that one of the struggles was when it looks like that you're strong and you got it all together, people tend to go on to the next. And they forget that there's a lot of strong people out here who have learned or grown into. I know my grandmother said you don't have to walk around like, you've been through it all.
Yes, the Bible tells you not to do that. You don't have to walk around like you're hungry when you're fasting.
That's right. But guess what? When you do certain things, that people will assume it's all good, so you don't need me. Let me go on to the next. And there have been times when strong people have to, and then you're not used to saying you need anything, because usually you're the one who's there for them. So I would encourage, us to actually don't assume. I think that's what gets us into mess, because we assume you got it going on, so ain't nothing wrong with you. And when you got it going on, it doesn't mean that it's not hard times around.
That's right. That's right.
It doesn't.
My next one would be, see, you say so many good things, and mine's go out of my head. But my next thing would be, don't let it be a temporary thing that we do this. Don't let it be a movement, because so many times we do this as a movement. You see something happen and it's like, we got to stick together, but that's temporarily. So let me say, allow it to be a lifestyle. Allow this sisterhood to be a lifestyle. Understand the power that we have when we unite. There's so many talented women out there of color. There's so many people who are literally putting themselves in position to make you great. And don't be afraid that it's because someone you don't know or even someone you don't like. The blessing is on the other side. The Bible tells us not to consider the birds of the air. They don't eat, they don't toil, they don't work for their food, yet they eat. Consider the lilies. So whatever you've been praying for, you might have to come down a little bit off your high horse because the blessing is on the other side of that. So mine is to make sure that it's not a movement, that it becomes a lifestyle. We have 2 minutes left, Lisa. So what would you say as a word of encouragement as we end?
A word of encouragement. One thing I do when I speak sometime at conferences and share with something with people, and it has to do with sharing the shine. So what I share with people is when the sun shines down on all of us ladies, we all grow differently, and it's all okay because we're unique. So it's okay. We're all receiving the sun and we will grow from it differently. So just accept the differences. I mean, the differences are what makes us beautiful. So I just say accept people for who they are and go from there.
Care Bears unite.
Well, love it.
Thank you. Lisa, it was a pleasure to have you on, and I thank you so much for sharing this broadcast with me, and I pray that it blessed a number of women listening today. We love you guys, and we want to see so much for you, but until the next episode of Red Room, I'm your host, Shay Samuels. I will see you all soon.